Well, the good news is the A's didn't lose today.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about the Oakland A's during their final season in Oakland. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season. Wow, sixth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Normally, I am the host of Locked On MLB, and I'm still the host of Locked On MLB, but this year I'm doing double duty. Double duty means I am hosting and scratching my nose at both Locked On MLB and Locked On A's 5 days a week. You can follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever it's called now. And on Instagram, I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And today is recording this on the 27th day of June, 2024. Today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right way to make you feel like you're part of the city you're going to because of the hotels that you log into from Booking.com. That's right. The right stay can make you the fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. So, yeah, the A's had a day off, a much-needed day off after the humiliating sweep in Anaheim. And I was going to take today off myself from the podcast. I said, no, maybe we just need to have a moment to take a step back and breathe. Now, I'm doing this as a live, so I'm seeing there's already a couple people in the live stream. Moves like Abdul-Jabbar says, I'm done following Major League Baseball. Strikeouts are fascist. Nice paraphrasing of Bull Durham there. I did a whole 100-some-odd episode podcast of the movie Bull Durham. So there you go. This shows digital video art so I can watch. Well, thank goodness I made it under the wire there. But, we've got questions to ask for A's fans because obviously we all got a little ahead of ourselves when they got off to a better start than we thought. May 4th, they're at even 500, about to play the Marlins again. Oh, my God. They're going to be above 500. And since then, oh, yeah, things have gone, what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty badly. And the nightmarish final months of the season are staring us right in the face. Empty seats are staring us in the face, with the exception of the final game. I bought tickets at the beginning of the year. I have a ticket from that I bought. We may talk about that later when I do some of the ads. But, I'm going to the final game. Let me know if you're going to be in the final game as well. It's probably going to be packed. It's probably going to be a, bittersweet, as the A's are going to play the final game in Oakland, wave goodbye, then go to Seattle and be a team without a city for a few years. But what is it we want to really see this year? Okay, let's just take the fantasy of them going to the playoffs. That's not going to happen. The selling of the team, that's not going to happen. They'll stay in Oakland. None of these things are happening. The chance I'm staying in the Oakland, they're better. There's a bigger chance that they'll go back to Kansas City. So let's be honest. What do we want to see for the rest of this year? Let me tell you some things I'd like to see from the A's. I'd like to see them play a little better. I know that sounds, borderline glib, but I'm actually serious. I don't think the A's are going to have a winning season. I don't think if you gave us truth serum, any of us thought the A's were going to have a winning season this year, but I'd like to have them not be such pushovers. I'd like to see them not get swept as often as they have. I'd like to see them have some games and win a couple of exciting games. I'd like to hear celebration a little more often at the Oakland Coliseum. I know they're going to have a losing season. Obviously they are. But it doesn't mean they have to be a 100-loss season. And you know what? That's one of the main things I've been wanting them to avoid all year long, and that is 100 losses. Now that will mean they'll have to have some good months. They'll have to turn things around. But I don't think it's asking too much to have them avoid triple-digit losses. I'd also like them to play spoiler. When we go down the stretch and the A's are playing games that are meaningful to the other team, if not to the A's schedule, not to the A's pennant hopes, then at least to the other team, they mean something. I would like to have, more often than not, people go to Oakland, circle it on their calendar as if, all right, this is going to be an easy one. And lo and behold, they lose the big game. You take a look at the final months. You're going to play Seattle. Seattle is going to be battling tooth and nail to try to get the division title. The Yankees are coming into town in late September. And the Yankees are going to be struggling with Baltimore. And the Yankees don't want to be a wild card team. They want to win the division. The Cubs are going to be on the bubble of the postseason situation. I would like to see these teams lose to the A's. I don't think that's asking too much. And I'd like to see at least one young player come up. I know the future is in Oakland, but I'd like to see at least one young player come up and play with a sense of excitement and joy. And I just would like to see them play at a slightly better level. Now, here's the other sort of philosophical question I want to. And by the way, if you have any like short-term goals or realistic goals you want the A's to have, you know what? Let me know in the comments. Let me ask you all a question. Now, moves like Abdul Jabbar is on here, and he's telling me he's never going to watch Major League Baseball again. Let me ask you in 2 or 3 years, as you'll be following the game. What do you honestly think you're going to do fan-wise for next year? What do you think you're going to do? Are you going to follow the A's to Sacramento? The people say I'm going to give up on baseball. I never believe them. My whole life I've heard about people giving up on baseball. Giving up on baseball the strike in 81, giving up on baseball in the strike and lockout in 94, giving up on baseball when the steroids thing, giving up on baseball when rule changes happen, and everyone always comes back. And people talked about giving up on baseball and this and that and all throughout the history of the game. So I wave my hand at that. But do you think you're going to continue to root for the A's as they move first to Sacramento? And I maintain I'll believe Vegas when I see it. Are some of you going to turn your allegiance to the Giants? And before you poo-poo that, there's going to be a generation that comes up. 6-year-old Oakland fans, 6-year-old fans living in the East Bay are not going to have a concrete memory of the Oakland A's existing. And when they grow up, they will probably be Giant fans because that's the team. And they'll also probably be 49er fans because that's the team. You know, when eventually the fans of the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants began to age out, there was an entire generation of fans like, yeah, I'm a Met fan. What's the issue here? So do you think you'll adopt the Giants? Do you think you'll stick following the A's and following from a distance? Or are you going to adopt a new team? There's not going to be another major league team coming to the East Bay. Put that away, okay? The Bay Area is going to be a one-team region. So are you going to switch your allegiance to the Giants, or are you going to follow them? These are the tough questions. Now, you're probably going to have an answer now. I'll never root for the Giants. I'll never do this. I'll never do that. But at one point, you are going to be drawn back into baseball. And this is throughout the history of the game. Something always happens to jolt people's attention and love of the game. It never fails. And eventually, bitter A's fans, it will happen to you. And tell me what you think. Tell me what you think, because I'm eager to know what you think now and write it down. And we'll see where we are when we come back in a couple of years. And when we come back on this particular episode, I want to address the fact that there's a team out there right now that's fumbling and bumbling almost as badly as the A's. So let me tell you something. We here at Locked On A's pride ourselves in covering the A's all year long. We know that you're here for us for all your A's news, whether it's spring training, whether it's the regular season, whether it's the draft, whether it's a relocation. It's a year-round conversation. Do what else is year-round? Collection seasons. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, seize your property, maybe even take your team away. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. I've worked for a lot of tech companies and video companies and media companies, and sometimes they pay you with a personal check, or sometimes they pay you with a 1099 form. They don't take the taxes out. If I don't have good people like they have at Tax Network USA, do you know what? You could get absolutely clobbered come April 15th. With over 14 years of experience and an A-plus rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/locked-on. See the link in this episode description below. Passion, drive, excellence. That's what makes for a winning championship team. And that's what also keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performances. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is available for U.S. customers only. Hey, where is your hub for all your sports news, your sports takes, and everything you need to be the best sports fan out there? Well, let me tell you something where you should go. You should make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest sports stories. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and takes and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube and the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. So the A's are about to start playing the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the D-backs are, well, they just got their butts handed to them by the Minnesota Twins this evening, 13-6. And they have had a bunch of blowout losses. And today was another. Jordan Montgomery, one of their big free agent signings from the offseason, just got clobbered. The Twins were winning 8-0 after 3 innings. And Jordan Montgomery threw his pitch clock device against the dugout wall. And he was just booed like crazy. And, he only got 8 outs. That's bad. And the Twins just hit him left and right. And he signed the $25 million contract at the beginning of the year. His ERA right now is 6.03. That stinks. That stinks with a capital stinks. And their starting rotation, which includes Brandon Pfaadt, which includes Ryan Nelson, includes Jordan Montgomery, has stunk. None of them. Brandon Pfaadt pitched well. He pitched in the 7th. No one else has gotten out of the 4th in their last turnaround. So, look, I know it's dangerous to sort of say that we have a chance to win this series because we all thought that in the series against the Angels, and the A's just got swept. And for some teams, maybe the A's are just the elixir that they need to turn things around. But you know what? Call me crazy. But the Arizona Diamondbacks are kind of floundering right now. And this is the exact type of, team that the A's should be able to take advantage of. Because the Diamondbacks remember, I don't know if you remember this, but the Diamondbacks were in the World Series last year. And it was a strange situation. They made the World Series despite having a negative run differential, despite playing excellent Los Angeles and Philadelphia teams along the way. But they still have images of getting back to the postseason dancing in their head. And they play in the weird National League where virtually nobody is eliminated at this point. And so the D-backs right now, despite being 3 games under 500, are only 2.5 games out of a playoff spot. And they must know that they can't afford to go on big losing streaks. They've dropped their last 2 games, and they see that the Padres are putting on their aft thrusters and are in that top wildcard spot. And they must see that St. Louis is playing better than them. They must see that a team like the Giants is too weird to not make a run. And they must know that the Braves are better than them. And, oh, yeah, the Mets have won 8 of their last 10 games, including pounding the Yankees in a short sweep. So the Diamondbacks are going to be pressing a little bit. And maybe, just maybe, this will be that little moment where the A's can take advantage. This is what they have to do. They have to win games and make people be frustrated. So let's see what happens. I'm going to have on Bill Thomas of Locked On Diamondbacks. So we're going to be doing a crossover and talking about this upcoming series. But we'll see. We will see which team is going to put a little bit of, a little bit of the aft thrusters. Paul Giza, named after the city in Egypt, writes, "I hate my favorite team." Yeah, I get that. They've given you no reason to love them. They've not put a product on the field. They have the lowest payroll and one of the worst farm systems in baseball. In other words, they are bad on the field. They're not spending money to improve them, and the future looks bad. So, and moves like Abdul-Jabbar wrote one last thing here. If we're looking at MLB from a best interest of the game perspective, that the Athletics are tanking is far more significant than the fact that the ball club will be playing in a 1,500-seater. Yeah, they are tanking. And for what purpose? What, to build up their farm system? For what? So they can sell them off? They need new ownership. They need to sell. When we come back, we're going to talk about another, I bet you forgot they were on the Oakland A's, of a beloved player who had 2 interesting and kind of surreal cameos with the Oakland A's. Let me tell you something what I did recently, and maybe some of you figured it out from some of the shows I've been doing, but I went on a terrific trip where it required me to go to a bunch of hotels. I went to Buffalo, I went to Syracuse, and I went to Cooperstown, and had baseball stops at each place. Got to see the Bisons play, got to see the Syracuse Mets play. And what did I do in Cooperstown? I tell you what I did. I visited the Baseball Hall of Fame, and I fell in love. And when you go to all these different cities, you're going to need hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts. You can find all of them at Booking.com. And this episode of Locked On A's is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. They can help you find the perfect stay, even your team's rival city. Let me tell you something. I had to find hotels in Buffalo, Syracuse, and in Cooperstown. And I didn't want to be in a situation where I went to a hotel and said, yikes. And so Booking.com set me up. I had the great place in downtown Buffalo, close to everything. I was a wonderful place in Syracuse, right close by the college. And then in Cooperstown, I was in Syracuse near the college. In Cooperstown, oh my God, what a wonderful bed and breakfast I found there. And everything was exactly what I needed. And you can find it all at Booking.com, from hotels that look over the stadium to fabulous bed and breakfast in the hamlet of Cooperstown. Booking.com has so many choices across the United States for your summer travel this baseball season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today at Booking.com on the site or on the Booking.com app. Booking.com. What's that? Booking.yeah. Now, are you struggling to close deals? Business-to-business selling is tougher than ever. And that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performances. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon for you to get started. LinkedIn, go check them out. This is a reminder that Locked On has created the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on the Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channel app. Don Baylor was a beloved player from the late 70s and through the 80s. He was considered to be a hard as nails, no nonsense, but fair player who was just basically a behemoth at the plate, hitting big home runs, was always willing to get hit by a pitch, and was the American League MVP when he helped lead the California Angels to their first ever playoff appearance. He also became an interesting trivia question answer. Who was the first person to play in the World Series in 3 straight years with 3 different franchises? He was part of the Red Sox team in 1986 that got to within 1 strike of winning the World Series. The next year in 87, he hit a key home run as a part-time DH for the Minnesota Twins in their World Series championship team. And then in 88, he finished his career with the 1988 American League champion Oakland A's. He bounced around a little bit. He was a product of the Orioles organization and had his biggest years with California, played for the Yankees briefly, and was basically credited with turning around the culture in Boston, where he was considered to be the judge, as he was swapped for Mike Easler and gave the Red Sox that big leadership they needed when they went on to win the pennant. He had a strange career in that he always seemed to do the opposite of Reggie Jackson. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. Don Baylor came up as a product of the Baltimore Orioles factory of great players. And he was a terrific player from the Oriole way. And it looked like he was going to be the next big star in Baltimore history. He got some MVP votes in his 1975 season which was his breakout year where he hit 25 home runs, stole 32 bases, and batted .282. But he was part of the weird vortex that was Charlie O'Finley. Going to the 76 season, and everyone knew free agency was looming, and Finley was trying frantically to do something, sell away his stars. If he was able to sell them for money or for some players, he probably would have built up a new dynasty faster than you would have thought. But Bowie Kuhn wouldn't let him. And so he made a stunning trade at the end of spring training of 1976, where he sent Ken Holtzman and, say it with me, Reggie Jackson to the Baltimore Orioles. The trade brought back several players, including Mike Torres and Don Baylor. Don Baylor was also, oddly, eligible for free agency at the end of the year. So it wasn't like they picked up a long-term solution there. Baylor had an okay but not great season with the A's. The strangest thing is he stole 52 bases. The other strange thing is at the end of the year, when it was clear that many of their star players were about to become free agents, there's a famous picture of Raleigh Fingers and Joe Rudy and Gene Tennis and Sal Bando all celebrating their pending free agency. Standing with them was Don Baylor, who no doubt became friends with all of them and was waiting for his free agency as well. But all those other players were part of the A's championship teams, and Don Baylor was a Reggie Jackson proxy. Now, keep in mind, throughout the early to mid-'70s, Don Baylor played for the Orioles, 1 year with the A's. The exact opposite of Reggie Jackson, who all those years with the A's, 1 year with the Orioles. They both went off to free agency. That's where Don Baylor landed with the California Angels, drove in 139 runs in 1979. For the first time ever, the Angels were division champs. In 82, he hit 24 home runs and was a big part of the Angels team that got this close to going to the World Series. His teammate on that team was Reggie Jackson, who had gone to the Yankees and came to the Angels via free agency. So they were teammates for 1 year. And then Baylor left and became a Yankee. So remember, Reggie played all those years with the A's, 1 year with the Orioles, a bunch of years with the Yankees, including his greatest moments, and then to the Angels. The exact opposite, Baylor, all those years with the Orioles, 1 year with the A's, glory years with the Angels, then off to the Yankees. He had almost perfectly mirrored Reggie Jackson's entire career until Baylor joined the Red Sox in 86. And Baylor hit a couple of big home runs that helped sink the Angels. Who was on that Angel team? Reggie Jackson. Now, Reggie Jackson wound up finishing his career with the 87 A's and bid farewell. When Jackson retired, who came in? Don Baylor. Always ships in the night. Baylor was part of the 88 squad and played 92 games, hit 7 home runs, and basically was a part-time player by the end. Now, he didn't have his biggest productive season, but who knows what influence he had on the likes of McGuire and Canseco and Carney Lansford and Dave Henderson. Dave Henderson and Baylor were teammates on the 86 Red Sox team. Sometimes you don't know what veterans could be that big influence. It was Dwight Gooden who talked about how Mike Torres, who was part of the Don Baylor trade and won a World Series with the Yankees, was a huge influence on him when he joined the Mets in the mid-1980s, just as Mike Torres was on the way out. Don Baylor was a key part of the A's team, maybe not from his production, but having this future manager in the clubhouse. He did wind up having a couple of big games or big moments, but by the time he was in the World Series, he made only one appearance as a pinch hitter, and he struck out. Baylor went on to have a long career as a manager, winning Manager of the Year once, and sadly passed away a few years ago. He was much better remembered as an Angel, and probably a few people had clips and memories of his home run in the World Series as a member of the Twins, or maybe other people remember him as the original Rockies manager or managing Sammy Sosa when he burst onto the scene in the late 1990s. But twice, Don Baylor had memorable cameos with the A's. And I bet you forgot he was a member of the A's. All right, let's clear out the comments section. Snarf says, I'll root for the Angels before the Giants. All right, fine. And then he said, we made 500. That was it. Yeah, I was there when they made 500. All right, well, we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming series with Millard tomorrow, and have yet another 5-episode week here. So follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever the hell it's called now, or on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. It's Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Having us all take a deep breath on a day where they had the day off. This has been Locked On A's. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.